the deliberate use of ineligible logo of a party on the ballot papers of the 2023 general election by INEC is very unfortunate. We were shocked on the election day to discover that INEC has decided to make use of the most blurred image to represent the logo of an MPP. It is even more shocking that the blurred image that INEC has put on the ballot did not include the name of our party.
The opposition parties believe that Nigerians have exercised their civic responsibilities and that should be respected. Victoria Longchan, Channels Television News.
Sunrise Daily. So yes, we are following up with conversations about the just concluded presidential and National Assembly elections. So those two gentlemen you see, they are joining us right here in the studios. We've got retired Colonel Leo Abara, Director of Security for Labour Party, clearly a former army officer, and Ayobami Oyalowo, a member of APC's PCC and also a development economist. Gentlemen, good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning.
Well, I think that picture speaks, says it all. Mr. Oyalowo smiling, that picture. And Colonel, not happy with what has transpired. Well, perhaps I'll start with you, Colonel. In terms of how this election has panned out. Yes, we've heard some position of the Labour Party, your party. But what do you think about what's gone down?
Yeah, the outcome of the election was not a surprise to us.
What do you mean was not surprised?
Yeah, way back precisely September on 12th, we got the APC battle map for this election. And then we studied it to find out if it was fake or true. On the 18th of October, it reappeared that it was going to be violent. So we looked at the battle map and said, okay, two things came out there. One, the mood. Secondly, the structure that will execute this battle plan. And let me come. For the mood, when we looked at the presidential candidates and the vice presidential candidate, we looked at the antecedents and saw that in their various states, there have been acts of violence, and they control such structures. So we say, well, in our situation room, it is possible that this election might be violent. And I know that for PDP, Ifeanyi Okowa and Alhaji Atiku, in our own assessment, we are not people that have a violent past. So we knew that we were going to have a violent election. Secondly, we looked at the structure of the battle plan of APC, and we dictated 6 structures that will execute this perceived violence. And I named them. Number 1, the party itself, the APC party, the state governors, all the states controlled by APC, their governors. We had the state security architecture controlled by the APC government, being hostile to Labour Party. We anticipated that. It was part of the battle map. Then in each of the states controlled by APC, we saw that there is an organic, violent, non-state actors that are inherent in those states being used. And then the 5th structure was the INEC. The APC controlled INEC. And the 6th one is the Judiciary. These are the structures we discovered in the APC battle plan. And we are in the last one. We just finished with the last structure, which is APC-controlled INEC. We are heading towards the APC-controlled Judiciary. Now, so the battle plan was correct.
You said this was in September.
In September, we had a news that said, look.
You were on this program?
Yeah.
This month?
Yeah, this month.
Never made mention of this. You told us categorically that your party was going to win.
Yes. And we won. We won. Landslide.
I don't understand.
We have published the results. Our agents were in the field, and the results given to them by INEC, stamped, pasted. We have them all.
Well,
we won landslide.
You're a former military officer. You
Yeah.
know how intels, you know what happens with authenticating intelligence if you do get it.
Yeah.
So when you say you saw this APC battle map, how did you know it was authentic?
Yeah. You know, when you have your intel, it's a battle plan. It's not a battle
Was it an
plan.
intel or how did you receive it?
Yeah, it's an intel. You see...
you considered it credible?
Yes, we waited, we looked at it throughout the whole of September to confirm. When we started seeing appointments, comments, and all that, we said, well, let's review it again in October. In October, it became firm. And then we started looking for the structures that we use. And during the campaigning period, in most of the APC states, we received the hostile, well, the mood, like we predicted, was hostile. And then it culminated in what happened on the 11th of February in Lagos. You saw it. We are not guessing. So the battle map was okay. And if you look at the structures that are following serially. We are now with the INEC-controlled APC. Now the next one is the Judiciary. And that's what they're telling us, go to court. We saw the battle map. If we read it before then, they will know that they will change it. So we know they are telling us, go to court.
All right, before we explore that a little further,
Mr.
Olowo, what do you think of this?
It sounds very funny. It's an older man, so I want to watch my language, but it's funny. You see, I took my time to look at the distribution of the result. If you look at it very well, you'll find out that we lost our key states, and I'll mention them. We lost Lagos, which is one of our major states. That is where the candidates come from. We lost Kaduna State. We lost our chairman state, Nasarawa. We lost our DG state, Plateau. We lost our president state, Katsina. And then they said we rigged the election. And then if you check everywhere we lost or where we won, the margin of victory or losses makes a lot of sense. But go check where they won, especially in their southeast, which is the region of their candidate. They got 90% and above, but it is fair to them. It is only where we either lose marginally or won that was rigged. It tells you a story that a loser will always find reasons to cry about their losses. And I will have told them what they should have done. I see them having joint press conferences, having joint wailing meetings. And these people should have done this before the election. You know, the LP came from the PDP, the candidate. The NNPP candidate came from the PDP. If you combine their numbers, these people could have easily won this election with all the circumstances. But they decided to go into the election a divided house without thinking through their actions. Now, their actions have now come back to bite them because they splitted their votes, they splitted their own crowd. We went into the election a united front, yet we lost key states. So when you begin to try to make sense of their wailings and their unnecessary complaints, you begin to wonder if they thought through this before the election.
I think that we need to be very temperate.
No,
Wait,
okay.
just a moment. I think that it is very important that we be temperate with the language that we use, because whether or not we accept it, the emotions of a number of people are quite raw at this moment. And that's one. And then when you also look at the fact that INEC promised a lot, that there was going to be deepened transparency in these elections, especially that the transparency was going to happen real time. In other words, as it was happening in the polling unit, people will be able to see it wherever they were logged on an IREV server. And that didn't happen, at least immediately. We know that the server is being uploaded now, and maybe we're almost done. I don't know what the status is this morning, but as at yesterday,
50%.
as at yesterday, it was closer to 80%.
Okay,
So it's been uploaded. And for a number of people who are checking, this delayed uploading is causing controversy. So
okay,
I think it's
can I
extremely
respond
important.
to that?
It's extremely important
what you
to be
raised?
temperate with language.
No problem.
We cannot dismiss the fact that in some places where you had this, what they call that now, where you had this, where he has talked about violence, because he's talked about a system of violence. For instance, in Lagos, it wasn't like as if the elections were honky-dory, peaceful elections. Yes, we might say that there were pockets of violence, but there was violence. And there was brutal violence, and people got very injured, at least in Lagos. And we've also heard reports in some other places. There have been online videos that have surfaced. So it will really be out of place for us to dismiss some of these reports of violence that we've seen, and also the fact that an INEC overpromised and underdelivered.
Okay, let me quickly start with the violent part. When you have 176,000 polling units, and we have pocket of violence, which we don't like, nobody likes it, but unfortunately it happened, it does not generally affect the overall conduct of the election. But I must also say this. There has been, you just mentioned Lagos, everybody has been shouting Lagos. But did you see what happened in Enugu and Anambra? Did you see what happened in Onitsha, where people were beaten up because they either wanted to or they voted APC? It is easy to beam the light on Lagos, Lagos, Lagos. Lagos is not Nigeria. Lagos is just one state in Nigeria.
Lagos is a microcosm of Nigeria.
But, and is Anambra a microcosm of another world? We have evidence of where people either were beaten up, were rough treated, simply because they wanted or they have voted APC. So let's not make it about Lagos alone. It was an unfortunate circumstances that should never have happened. Our people have come back. In fact, I have one lady who had to leave and come back to Abuja because they knew she voted APC and her home was targeted for violence. But nobody is bothered to report. I mean, nobody is bothering to report this because it is not according to the agenda that everybody wants to set against the APC. That is number one. Now, talking about uploading the result. The results are now being uploaded. I even thought it was about 50%. You now told me it's over 80% as of yesterday.
Approaching 80%.
Yeah, I cannot speak for INEC on that, but I can hazard some guess based on the experience we've all had. If you have a platform, I mean, they've used it in small elections in states, but when you load everything at once on a platform, there are glitches that could happen. And I'll give you an example. Before, we were all doing transfers on our accounts, I mean, our bank apps and everything. But the moment this cashless regime was foisted on us in a way that looks haphazard, I'm sure you yourself must have experienced transactions failure over time. I still experience them even as at yesterday. Today, I've not tried to do any transaction. So it tells you that probably, it is because you are loading so much on that platform. And that is why they had to take their time. And we must understand this, that whether they loaded it immediately or they are loading it now, it is still available for anybody to go check. And if you have discrepancies, then you can make issues. But making it an issue that because it didn't load immediately is now enough to create unnecessary problem, I don't think it is right. Because somebody in the report you pushed now, somebody was talking about, they said go to court, go to court, go to court. If you don't go to court, where do you want to go to? Do you want to repeat 2011? Do you want to kill people on the street because you don't agree to an election result? I don't think so. What civilized people do is still go to court.
All right, Connor, what do you think of this?
You see, you can't use your hand to cover the sun. If Yaga Africa says INEC was not transparent, if the EU observers say this election was not transparent, if the observers that have come here to observe what has happened say the whole process is not transparent, then I don't know how else we are going to, and the Nigerians are saying this is not transparent. What else do we say? So it's not about somebody winning or being pronounced winner. The authentic results are there. Our agents have authentic results. released by INEC, stamped. INEC refused to upload the election from the polling booths as stated by the law. I'm not a lawyer, I don't want to go into that, but let me just look at the violent aspect of it. Somebody he said that violence may not be able to affect the outcome of the elections. We saw in videos where in Lasso, they say people who don't speak this language should get out of this place. We have seen several places in Lagos, in Rivers, in Imo, where security agencies, we are wearing army uniform, police uniform being used to destroy ballot boxes. The videos are out there. You saw a woman that was badly beaten. She still came back to vote. She's a Nigerian. She never committed any offense. Her offense is that she wants to vote. We have the national security architecture deployed fully. The state was deployed.
Can you say that on good authority that the state was deployed for this
Yes, the state was deployed. You see, the structures of the state security architecture include the defense. It includes the internal security agencies.
There are two separate things.
I'm coming. They were out there. But these things were happening. These structures of the state are paid to protect Nigerian citizens. But here they were fully deployed on the road, and non-state actors, violent non-state actors, were taking people out. You saw blood all over. In Rivers State, especially in Obiakpo, it was terrible.
Okay,
I was in a situation where people were calling me.
Yeah,
like let me just finish.
I know you know that in every election...
Let me just finish.
You will finish. You know that in every election, security officials go out there to ensure that people vote peacefully.
Yeah.
So when you say they were deployed, people could get the impression that you're saying that they were under instructions to manipulate the election. Is that what you said?
I didn't say that. But in the situation room, the first call I got was from Imo State, in a place called Ayana Junction. The soldiers were preventing people from going to vote.
Okay.
We called the brigade commander, and I think it was resolved. The second call was from Rivers State, that people wearing military uniform were not allowing Labour Party officials to come into the INEC.
Is your party going to identify that and take that complaint to either the CDS or to the next authority?
Those who are doing that are already doing it. Okay. And we saw police...
Let me bring in my colleagues from Lagos. I have questions for both of you, so you still have time. So guys, please go ahead.
Well, thanks, Chamberlain. Let me just follow up with Colonel, and I'd like to know, and I imagine a lot of Nigerians will want to know as well. It's been a few days after that election, and I imagine that you've been compiling those incidents, which you say were targeted at your party across the board. Do you have like a holistic view now? Just how many would you say, how many attacks would you say were targeted at your party, or perhaps areas where your party holds a strong hold, so to speak? Okay, I'm not sure you can hear me, Colonel. Just to confirm, did you get my question?
I got it, but he didn't. But it's to Colonel.
Okay. Okay. Well, since
I can hear you, but Colonel can't.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. Let me come to Mr. Yalawo.
Ask me the question.
No, but let me help him with the question.
No.
It's okay. It's okay. If you can't hear me, Colonel, let me come to Mr. Yalawo. We'll work on that and come back to you. Mr. Yalawo, Colonel spoke to some issues which I'd like you to respond to. He talked about some layers which they had mapped out before the election, and talked about your party itself having violent tendencies, even the governors, security agencies, which he says are controlled by your party, and said the organic state or non-state actors this time around, which he believes would also participate in this. And I mean, those are major allegations targeted at your party, even security agencies, basically, but your party in the midst of it and the governors. Do you want to debunk that? Do you have proof that debunks those points he made?
I don't want to debunk anything. They are the ones making the allegations. They should prove what they are making as allegations. I mean, it's easy for them to make these funny allegations, and I still ask this simple question. We went into the election holding down 22 states. We came out winning only 12 states clearly. And then they are claiming we have done this and done that. Let them go prove it. But he said they don't want to go to court because he claimed that the APC owned the court. Meanwhile, we've all seen how APC elections have been overturned in court before. We are all living witnesses to what happened in Bayelsa. Our candidate was having a rehearsal to be sworn in less than 24 hours when the court took it away from him over some flimsy excuses. So claiming the APC controlled the court is something that I find very pathetic, because I don't think we should destroy institution here because of our raw temperament or because of the pain of losing an election. And I say it clearly, if they went into the election as one body, probably we would not even be here complaining. But they decided to split their vote, because if you combine their numbers together, they hold, with NNPP, they hold about 13 to 14 million votes to our 8.7 million vote. But they are not thinking that way. They lost themselves the election by refusing to go as one body into the election. And if we talk about complaint from Situation Room, we got plenty of them and we documented them. But we don't want to make issue, because I wouldn't want to say a candidate now, the president-elect has tried to wave the olive branch, and we want to hold on to that, trying to make peace. However, anybody, no matter how pained you are by the loss, we must realize that after an election, we have a country to build. When they've already polarized the people because of election. We know how religious organizations got involved. Everybody were making all manner of incendiary statements before the election. So we will not want to go into that. Anybody who have proofs should go prove it in the court. But if you now say you don't want to go to the court, do you want to go on the street? Do you want people to die? I don't think it's the wise thing to do. I think at this stage, people should call for calm and then do what civilized people do. Go to court with your evidences. And we will counter yours with our evidence that we have gathered. Like I said to you, APC people were not allowed to vote in so many of the southeastern states. We have evidences. We have people who were actually, in fact, we have a lot of our people who called in that they either couldn't vote or they couldn't go out on that day because,
hold on. You respond.
Because they were either being manhandled, being targeted, or being even violently dealt with. We saw videos of a man in Onitsha, St. Teresa School specifically, who was beaten up and treated like a criminal simply because somebody said he voted APC. All these things are there for everyone to see. But no, it is about APC rigged election that we actually lost 12 states that was APC state before the election. But no, they don't want to see that they lost themselves the election by splitting their votes. They are pretending not to understand that. If you had added their 11 state plus FCT plus the PDP 11 state, PDP 12 state, that is the 22 states that will have given.
Well, Mr. Oyalawo,
but they don't think that way.
Well, Mr. Oyalawo, things are usually maybe not that simple. Even if that had happened, the sentiments might be quite different. But I'll leave that to politicians to do all the permutations. But just to confirm, Colonel, can you hear me now? Okay, looks like Colonel still can't hear me. So let me just follow up.
Go ahead, I can hear you.
Oh, you can hear me, fantastic. So I know you want to respond to what Mr. Oyalawo said. So in addition to that, the question I asked earlier is just, what is the scale of the attacks that you recorded, which you say were targeted at perhaps your supporters, people who wanted to vote, you believe wanted to vote for Labour Party across the country? Have you documented them? Just how many are they? I imagine that days after the elections, you should have maybe a figure to that so Nigerians can maybe better understand where you're coming from.
We have documented them, and I'm not permitted to reveal that. Those who will do that will do that. But let me just let you know. In Lagos State, it was too violent. Everybody saw it. It was not one of a thing. We were there on the 11th of February. Labour Party faithfuls were macheted, their cars destroyed across the state. It's not the first time it's happening. We knew very well the antecedents of Lagos State with its violence and the thuggery, and they never disappointed. In Kogi State, it was the same story. We saw videos of a local government chairman being escorted by people wearing police uniform, going about destroying ballot boxes where Labour Party has a stronghold. And in Imo State, there were no elections in Izombe, in Umowere, in Oru East, Ihiala, and different parts of the FCT and Lagos. There were no votes, yet there were results. If you look at Rivers State, I think the most notorious was the Obiakpo local government, where allegedly that the governor got involved with the security agencies and thugs. And we saw videos of a man that belonged to one of the organizations which is a violent non-state actor in Rivers State called the Grassroots Development Initiative. This man was caught with dynamite. There were U-coppers that had blood on their body. These are Nigerians. What was their offenses? They just want to exercise their franchise. They were being bullied, killed, chased out. It was on video all over. I don't know what else to say. Obi won landslide, and we have the original results.
Well, Colonel,
and with time, I think the appropriate authorities in the Labour Party will publish them.
Well, Colonel.
And then in many cases, in many places, especially in southern Borno and Yobe, there were no beavers deployed. In some cases, when INEC comes, they come very late, and they come with insufficient materials. So by the time they start operating, within few hours they want to close. And let me tell you why it is so. The INEC is controlled by the APC. The chairman was appointed by the APC. The commissioners were appointed by the APC.
Well, Colonel, just to come in here, I mean, that's why it's called
APC,
the Independent National Electoral Commission. In its laws, the laws stipulate, pardon me, Colonel, just to follow up with what you said, the laws of INEC stipulate how the commission is meant to operate with its national commissioners. I mean, yes, you cannot take away those appointments, but in terms of its operations, how it carries itself and makes its decision, it is meant to be independent in its laws. So saying that it is controlled, I hope you have proof to that, which negates the law which sets up the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC.
How independent they are. If you have told us, and I can remember one gentleman, I want to mention his name, that gave INEC the integrity, the face for Nigerians to accept these beavers, was a gentleman, an erudite fellow called Mike Igini. He was the one that sold beavers to us. And I want that gentleman to come out again. I know his integrity. You know, Nigerians love that man because I followed him, and he was the face that sold beavers to us. And as he was talking, when we finished, we entered the situation room in Labour Party, and we looked at Mike Igini. His integrity is fantastic, but he's a lawyer. He's not a technical person. And we now asked INEC, we need a technical person to come out and say beavers is a game changer. And let me tell you, I have a master's degree in cybersecurity. Any of those gadgets deployed in the cyberspace, and you are transmitting results from one polling unit to the server, and it's not encrypted, it has a question mark. That's number one. Number two, even if it's going to be encrypted, is it going to be end-to-end encryption? But whether encryption, whether transmission never happened. As provided by the law, INEC presented. That is the issue. So after many days, they started doctoring it and all that. So when I say it was...
Colonel, pardon me to comment now.
APC.
We're due for a break now, but it's important not to make claims without proof to back them up, such that we pass the right message to Nigerians. So if you claim that these things were doctored, do you have proof right now to show Nigerians that indeed your claims are what you say they are? But we'll go to break, Colonel. And when we return, we'll take on some of those issues. My colleague is also here with some questions, so please stay with us. Well, it's a day after the announcement of the 2023 winner of presidential election. We still have Colonel Leo Abara, the Director of Security, Labour Party, as well as Ayobami Oyalawo, a member of the APC's PCC, in our Abuja studio. Bukola, over to you now.
Yes, thank you, Kayode. Mr. Oyalawo, let me come to you now. You know, you make an interesting point when you liken, the challenges with the upload of results to IREV with bank transactions, the challenges that we have with transfers and all of that. And I have been having such challenges, in recent times. For 3 days now, I've been unable to do transfers. But we're talking about a major election, presidential and National Assembly election. And all of these issues were trashed with INEC before the election, and INEC assured that everything would go smooth sail. Nigerians have been expressing concerns about the delay in the upload of their result. And I want to go to, one of such concerns expressed by Nigerians. I've seen this one posted, by one of such. And they have gone back to check on the IREV and discovered that results that they snapped at their polling unit and kept as evidence was not captured in, INEC's IREV portal. In fact, there's a highlight here done for Chevy View Estate Gate, no result yet. And in the result for their candidate, what is recorded is 457 votes. If this can be found in so many other areas, don't you think that it could substantially alter the entire outcome of the presidential election, and a particular candidate may have been denied their mandate?
Are you done? Okay. Like I said, you have 13,000 polling units in Lagos. You have 176,000 in Nigeria. You mentioned one that has not been uploaded, and does invalidate 176,000, yeah. And does that invalidate? I mean, you have an easy way of even going to court now, because whatever is uploaded, if it's even from what was signed, it's an evidence that you can use in court, and the court will now sit on it. Making so much issue out of such thing, we could bring you all what happened in Enugu. I have one here myself, where the person who signed for the APC is the person who signed for some other party. And the thing is here, but we are not making noise out of it. We are just keeping it that if there's an issue, we will go ahead and do what we needed to do. I have it right here on my phone. I can actually show you whoever signed one Igbo something, that's the name. He signed for 2 or 3 parties. And this is what happens strategically in the entire Southeast. But you people keep talking about one place in Lagos or 2 places in Lagos, but nobody is talking about the East that we noticed in the Southeast. In the entire Southeast, they had 90% everywhere, but it was fair. And then suddenly, in places where nobody, for instance, where I voted, nobody voted for Labour because nobody knew the party in the place where I voted. So, I find it very funny that people make these allegations, and we have said, if you truly have evidence, go to court. Somebody gave another example yesterday. I'm glad that you talked about your transaction that is not you can't do it in the last 3 days. If you finally go through it, does it mean the figure will change? No, if the figure changes, then you go to the bank and complain. So whether INEC uploaded IREV immediately or they uploaded 2 days after, all you need to do is you have evidence, because we have agents on the field who came with evidences to us too. So if you have evidence, document it and do what civilized people do. Honestly, this unnecessary complaint, bringing out 1 or 2, definitely we've never had an election that is going to be 100% foolproof. But for this particular election, with the way beavers worked, a lot of things came to pass. Places where they could just bring in 1 million votes, 2 million votes, suddenly we are saying 500,000, 600,000, 400,000. It tells you that the election was largely free, fair, and credible. However, when people lose, they always find reasons for their losses. I have given them the reason why they lost is because they couldn't go together as a body. But since they think otherwise, they have every right under the law to take the legal recourse to seek redress. However, trying to taint everything without thinking about the implication, the larger implication, is dangerous. Because let us assume, without considering,
Mr. Oyalowo, it may not be safe to say that some of these complaints are isolated. If the other political parties present their evidence, it could be far-reaching across the country. But I'm going to leave you to
it's good to go to court. It is the court that will determine.
I'll leave you to engage with other politicians on that. Let me come to Colonel Abara. Colonel, I hope you can hear me. I'd like us to talk very quickly about the sanctity of a voter's choice, especially in the light of the experiences of many voters across the country on the Presidential and National Assembly election day. Mr. Oyalowo talked about the concern in the Southeast region of voter intimidation, and we saw some of those videos. As much as they have happened in the Southwest, we also saw them in the Southeast region as well. So going forward, because there'll be elections in 2 weeks and subsequently, going forward, how do you suggest that the voters' choice will be sacred? Are you thinking along the lines of the concern about party agents being present at polling units? Because if I don't tell someone who I'm voting for, nobody's supposed to know. And I also like you to respond to the concern about voter intimidation in the Southeast region as well, for those who wanted to vote other political parties other than the Labour Party.
Well, in the Southeast, where did voting take place? In a few places. In Imo State, there was almost only 10% or 15% of voting that went on. In Uguta, a brigadier general called me and said, look, there are about 10 polling units, no INEC official. In Izombe, in Oru East, there was no voting in the Southeast. So where is the Togri? Rather, security agencies were preventing people from going to vote. And the issue of Rivers State and Lagos, very shocking, and Kogi State as well. We saw people dressed in police uniform, coming to carry ballot boxes and destroy them. It's on video. It happened in Edo as well. People wearing military uniform coming to polling units to carry ballot boxes and destroy them. The videos are there. We have all evidences. And our agents have authentic results stamped by INEC. And let me tell you, you see,
Colonel, so when you say you have your agents at the polling units and, they were able to stamp and authenticate the results, I imagine then that you also had your situation room. That's how you're able to tell that you won by a landslide. Yeah. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So I want to know, which other states did you win, apart from the ones which INEC says you won?
Well, I don't have the breakdown with me here. And I think the appropriate component of the Labour Party will come up with it.
No, but it's very important. When you say that you won landslide, you must be able to say, at least in these other states, this is where our results are different. In this other state, our results are different. That hasn't happened so far.
In Lagos, the margin of defeat was alarming. In Ondo, in Plateau, it was massive.
You won in Ondo?
Yes, we did. We did. And then in Plateau, it was massive. So across the country. So I don't have the figures, I don't have and the appropriate authority will brief you on that. But we are sure that P2B won massively across the country. There's no doubt about that. But you see, when we looked at the battle map, we knew that after INEC, it's going to be the court.
All right, so that suggests, you'll be going to the court, as you said, after INEC is going to be the court. But now there will be another round of elections, the governorship elections. So would your party, is there any position on that yet? Because, much as we hear some persons we can't exactly tell what party they belong to. Some of them thrashing the PVC, saying they might not come out. Will your party be encouraging your members to come out and vote for the next elections?
I think it's the chairman of the party who will have that position to say that. I'm just in charge of security. But
what about you? Would you go out to vote?
I will. I will.
Right.
But let me just finish.
Let
me just finish. How will the government treat the violent non-state actors acting in Lagos, in Kogi State,
have you reported
in Imo State?
Have you reported to
we have reported. We have even seen some of them wearing uniform conniving.
You reported to the police?
Yes, we have even to the military.
So we'll hope that
and nobody has been arrested.
Would you be going out?
In my own estimation, of course, I'm going to be voting. But beyond that, you check the pattern of voting before. Because what we do, we look at the pattern of voting. It's not significantly different in terms of numbers. But he just said now that people didn't come out in the Southeast. However, they were posting. He said they had 15%. You said 15%. That means there was no enough coming out.
It was about 10%.
Good. Just
people came out, they were denied voting.
Sorry, I wasn't interjecting you, sir. But unfortunately, they were posting 500,000, 400,000 in their own region. And they are not complaining about it. I don't know if they are seeing the funniness of what they are doing.
I imagine
making issue out of where we won, but pretending not to see the fact that they massively rigged in the Southeast because it's their
I imagine both parties will all have compiled their cases when they head to the next
stage. And then I think we should respect the court. I think we should respect the court and try to say
we never
the APC.
Don't say Labour Party rigged in the Southeast.
Gentlemen, we have to thank both of you for coming on. We appreciate your honoring the invitation. Thank you for coming on, and all the best to both of you.
Thank you, Maupe.
We will be back in just a moment. Stay with us.